You're such a cutie. What? What? Bye-bye. Daddy gotta go work. Yeah. You guys are dirty. What you been doing? Happy Thanksgiving, friends and neighbors. I know it's been a while since I created any real content. I've been amazed at the continued support in spite of that. I see a rising demand for how-tos and DIY projects, especially in relating to farming and homesteading. What I have for you today is solely around this bunk feeder, which has worked really well for us for feeding a lot of sheep. Overall, this structure has worked extremely well for us. I have been very, very happy with it. And in today's video, I'm going to go through a little bit of a step-by-step how it was built and some things I like about it and a couple things, couple issues, if you will, that I have not yet figured out a very good remedy for. I know it's that time of year when pastures are pretty much gone. You've probably brought your animals into the barns, and you might be trying to figure out how can we efficiently feed hay to sheep and goats. Because they're a smaller animal, it's a lot harder to feed them out of a big round bale as is commonly used for cattle. So a year ago, we built this structure. We had 350 head of Dorper ewes, about a year old, and I was looking to how can I efficiently feed and house that many here on the farm. And so I found a similar structure somewhere on YouTube, but it was inside of a barn built out of metal. It was a little bit different. And I took that idea and we built this structure 128 feet long, and we fed 300 plus sheep on this all winter long. Now, we were overstocked for that size, but for 128 feet you can comfortably feed about 250 Dorper ewes. Obviously, if you have a bigger breed, then that all might be a little bit different, but right now we are only using about half of this 128 feet, and we're around 100 adult ewes in here at the moment. Along with that, we have about 30 babies on the side. Starting with the things I like about it, I can house a lot of sheep. They're out of the weather, there's fresh air. We can very efficiently feed a lot of sheep in a very short amount of time. Bring the bale in, roll it out, everybody's fed. Do that once or twice a day, however, depending on how many sheep you have, quality hay, and so on. The other thing I love about this structure is we divided it out in some paddocks. We have the automatic fountains, water fountains, but in this case we divided it out to 4 paddocks to help with management, dividing them up into smaller groups for better management and so on. The other thing I like about it is it was a low cost, quick, and fairly easy, simple structure to get up. I'm going to go through the step by step. Posts are 8 foot on center, 4x6s. This is the in-between measurement, in between the two posts, is 4 foot 9 inches. We have 1.5 inches, 2x4 on the inside, 1.5 inches, 2x4 on the inside. That brings the overall interior measurement down to 4 foot 6. You can see we have a 4 foot piece of OSB and a 6-inch piece of OSB, and yes, it is OSB. It has worked extremely well. It's 5/8 OSB on 2 foot centers of joist. Support board. I did this 2x4 lagged in with 6-inch screws instead of joist hangers. So my joists are going to sit on top of here. Got marks every 2 feet. At some point I probably will pour concrete over this to raise this up a little bit more, and obviously to get a cleaner base for them to eat off of. Rafters, they are 4 foot on center, and as you can see we have a 2x4 purlin down there, one here and one up here, so we only have 3 rows of purlins per sides. It's about 6 foot coverage on that side, maybe a little bit more, and 6 foot on this side, and then 4.5 feet in the middle here. So what's that, 12, 16, a little over 16 foot total width structure. And obviously lengthwise you can make it as short or as long as you want to, for the amount of animals that you have. One other thing that has worked really well for me, and I do need to fill these, but is these little mineral feeders. That one got clogged up. I'd never seen that before. Might have to open that up a little bit more. That's a simple DIY mineral feeder. It's under the weather. It has worked really, really well. The loose minerals and even the blocks, I've been able to put the blocks in there as well. So, and quick side note, that's a selenium block with copper in it. It has worked really well, and I declare it has helped keep the parasites out of the animals. We have not had a lot of trouble in the adults, and I've noticed especially if we keep them in the bunk feeder, there's no trouble. The trouble comes from them being out on pastures and not properly rotating. I think I pretty much touched on the things that I really like about it. I mean, basically it's like, what's not to like about this structure? It was simple, efficient, continues to be that way. This is 1 year after we have built it, and I like it as much as I did when I first built it. I do have 2 problems, if you will, that I have not yet figured a solution for. I could say 3. One is little babies getting out here into the center, which I have somewhat remedied by, these are adjustable. They're just put in there with big ledgers. I can adjust these. As you can see here, this is much wider than this side where we have babies. So that can help remedy that. The other thing is, I have to watch what kind of hay I bring in here. Heavy, wrapped, I feed mostly wrapped baleage. And I have bought, last winter I bought some really heavy baleage that was just too heavy for me to roll out. So I know that part would be a big hindrance to some people. You have to be able to roll the bales out. Dry hay works the best. I have an idea for that. I just have not implemented it. But the idea would be a winch at the other end with a long cable, something to go through the bale from each side, and then use the winch to roll the bale out. Have not implemented that yet. The third and really the biggest issue is keeping them dry. Not from the weather necessarily, but when I'm feeding high protein hay, sheep are really messy. And it's been a little bit of a challenge to keep them dry. Right now it doesn't look bad. I just cleaned the bunk out this morning and I put everything off to the side. Whatever they don't eat, the little dust, some of these stalks and stuff, that's all I use for bedding. I have noticed it's better when I let this build up like I have. The only problem with that is now their bedding is as high as their food table and they have to get on their knees to eat. I don't really like that. I don't think there's a problem necessarily. It's not necessarily a problem, but as you can see, they're all on their knees down there eating. My experience with this has been what's not to like about it. Overall, it's so simple, it's so efficient, it has worked really well, and I think I have covered a couple of the things that might be deterrents for some people. And then one last quick thing. You might wonder, how in the world do we clean that out? You know, I was very amazed. I have a grapple on the skid steer, and I was actually able to just go up in there, grab a big grapple full of manure and pull a big slab out. It was amazing. It worked far better than I expected. Obviously, my skid steer isn't able to go up underneath the shelter, so my grapple would only reach about 2 feet out from the inside, but it was enough of the, it was able to get a good enough hold on it that it was actually, and I guess there's enough hay in there, stalks and stuff, that it was able to just pull big mouthfuls of it out. And we had her cleaned out in short order, so that worked really well as well. That's my quick review on this bunk feeder. I really like it. It has served us really well. I wanted to share that with anybody out there looking for a DIY hay feeder for sheep. Like I said, this could be cut down to, you know, just 2 posts. That would be 16 feet. And you could feed about 30 sheep on that. I think it's incredible. Obviously, metal is probably the easiest roof. In this case, I did not use metal. I had a friend that does tarp roof buildings, the hoop buildings, and he was able to get me a white continuous tarp for this for very low cost, about half of what metal would have cost me. If I had to do it over again, I would use metal. I wasn't necessarily tickled how the tarp came out. It's just not as neat and clean. It's a little harder to stretch, and but with that, it hasn't caused a problem. We have had some really high winds. It has held on really well, and this is actually how we attached that. I ran a strip of wood through the sleeve here, and these ratchets came with the tarp. I put those every 8 feet on both sides. These braces here, I did not have in there originally, and it worked, but for the longevity of the structure, I felt like those braces should be in there. And obviously with sheep, they don't get in the way. They fit right underneath there. If you were feeding calves in here, maybe it'd be a little bit different, but it's just a very simple, easy structure. I love it. I want to share it with anybody out there that is, it's that time of year when you have your animals covered. You want to have them covered, and this is such an easy way to get them covered, get them shelter, feed them in the dry. And round bales are often cheaper to get than square bales. But with that, that's something I did not cover. Obviously, you could feed small squares. If you only had a short 16-foot structure, you were feeding 25 head or so, you could feed square bales, you could feed grain, you could feed it all. That's the beauty of it. That's what I love about it, is it's so flexible, and it could be scaled up or down to fit a small homesteading setup or a more of a commercial farm setup, if you will, like we have here. So that's my review on it. I'm going to create some PDFs, plans, prints, material lists, and everything to go with it. I love when I feel like I have some value to share, and in some small way concerning feeding sheep in the winter, or goats, I think it would work just the same. I feel like this has worked really well, and I'd love to share it with anybody that has any interest in or a need where this could fulfill a need for somebody. So thanks for watching, and enjoy the holidays, and love you guys.